por Dios, no me enganches, espérate que hay más. Hice cita pa'l psiquiatra, a ver si me ayudaba, pues ya no tengo amigos por solo hablar de ti.
Welcome and thank you for being here. Our breakfast performance will begin in a couple of minutes. We'd like to thank our sponsors and share with you these features. Bienvenidos.
When you come into our offices, we're going to meet you where you are. We're going to speak your language. We're going to help you get what you need because you are a part of this community. What we wanted to be able to do was not only visually, but also in our work, be able to tell a community they belong here. They're just as much a resident, just as important to the economics and environment and the social setting and fabric of Wyandotte and Johnson County. The way to stay relevant, the way to make sure that we know we're on track in the services we provide is to listen to the population that we serve. I think people are passionate about what we do here at El Centro that inspires them to actually make a difference. And the long-term staff members, I hope, not only see the relevance in their work and what they do on a day-to-day basis, but they're doing it for the clients that we serve. It hasn't been a growth overnight, but it definitely has been a strategic kind of plan and working arrangement with our board, our staff, the community, funders. We can always ask for money. It's sustaining our growth that's the most important piece. This is where we belong, and we love what we do.
Help us welcome Danza Sagrado Corazón de Guadalupe.
Hello everyone, I'm Kaleo Pedesolarzeno. I'm going to read about bees. Oh, did I mention I'm in 2nd grade? And bees make pollen and create honey and put them in little holes in their hive. They go to a big flower field to get more pollen. Bees have a job of getting honey for their hive. The queen's job is to protect the baby eggs. Teachers are like the queen bee, but because they help students work together and spread knowledge. Teachers make the students feel safe in classrooms. The students are like the baby bees classrooms. The teacher gives their students some honey. Yummy. Bye. Hope you learn about bees.
Suavemente, bésame, que quiero sentir tus labios besándome otra vez. Suave, bésame, bésame, suave, bésame otra vez. Suave, yo quiero sentir tus labios besándome otra vez. Suave, besa, besa, bésame un poquito. Suave, besa, 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 bésame otro ratito. Pequeña, échate pa' acá.
Hoy sí que sí. Ay. Dime pa' dónde vamos después de la playa. Si no secamos, yo traigo la toalla y de nuevo nos mojamos.
I was waiting for it. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, good morning. Woo! Did y'all feel that energy? Like in that dance, when I sat down, I felt the vibrations and everything. That was really what I was hopeful for. Before I say much more, los que tienen los audífonos para interpretación, aseguren que lo aprenden. Hay un botón para aprenderlo, para que tenga power. Entonces asegúrense que está prendido su audífono. Buenos días. Good morning. Good morning. I am Susana Elisa Raraz. Thank you so much for being here this morning. Obviously, very many of us, including myself, are not practicing Catholics in this room, right? But what better way to honor the peoples of this land? What better way to honor my peoples, to honor many of our peoples, than to have folks who represent elements of our culture like that? Matachines, for those of you who don't know, have actually Spanish and indigenous elements to it. It is very prominent, obviously, as you saw in the Catholic Church. I am from Mexico, as many of us are. My mom actually is the reason why I thought Matachines should be here this morning. My mom is deaf, but was able to participate in Matachines as a kid because you felt that, didn't you? The vibrations. You know what else? I can't help but think if some of our kids were in here right now, some of our Latinx students, some of our indigenous students, some of our immigrant students, refugee students, how seeing folks doing that, how at home they would feel. Raise your hand if you felt just a little bit at home with, right? And many of us, like I said, are not practicing Catholics. We maybe don't have indigenous roots, or maybe or we all do, but you know what I mean? We're not Mexican, but you still felt that little bit of home. Raise your hand one more time. Who's teacher taught? Who's teacher taught in here? Woo! Who's teacher taught? Who's teacher taught? Everyone in here is teacher taught. Shout out to our ED, our founder, Edgar Palacios, who'll come up here in a little bit. This is his genius, teacher taught. I look forward to you wearing these shirts out and people seeing teacher taught being like, we should appreciate our teachers more, because who isn't teacher taught? Everyone in here, everyone in the world, regardless of certification, regardless of degree, regardless of university, regardless of school, regardless of a position, is teacher taught. You saw the kiddos up here. You saw them getting down. They're teacher taught. Right? Okay. So, muchas gracias al grupo Danza Sagrado Corazón de Guadalupe. Se les agradece mucho. Ojalá tuvieron chance de agarrar un cafecito. Por favor, siéntanse libres a estar con nosotros esta mañana. I encourage you, just an easy thing to do, Monday. You're in your schools. Who are your kids? What elements of themselves do they not see represented in their schools that you can bring in? It is Hispanic Heritage Month. Woo, 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 woo. You know, I kind of got a love-hate with it because a lot of our schools, a lot of our institutions wait till this month, right? But do some research. You know, are some of your kids practicing Catholics? Are some of them, from Guatemala, from Nicaragua, from other places around the world? We're not all Mexican, right? We all don't speak Spanish. Some of us are trilingual, quadlingual. Find out about us, all right? So I have the ultimate pleasure of walking us through our mission. You are here because of the Latinx Education Collaborative. Our mission is to increase Latinx representation in K through 12 classrooms. And we are so excited to be able to do that with y'all, by our sides. I also want to go ahead and go to the next slide and give a shout out, y'all, to my team. Can I just get like a hard round of applause? Delia, Trisha, Lexi, I'm sure running around somewhere, Yvonne, Christy. Sorry, you told me to go slow on names, I'm sorry. Look around. I mean, Edgar and I are back here getting a little emotional because it's all thank you to my team. We've worked really, really hard on this. I hope you enjoy your day today. Shout out to our volunteers, our ambassadors. Give a hand. Yeah. I'm super excited about this. Did you know we have high schoolers in the room today? We have college students in the room today. Shout out, woo! Raise your hand if you're a parent of a high schooler. Who's a parent of a high schooler? You know how hard it is to wake them up, yes? Okay. For them to be here, some of our high schoolers were here at 7:30 this morning. So another round of applause to our volunteers, to our ambassadors. I know this, you know what? I just realized I haven't told you this. This is our first hybrid conference. That means that we've done the in-person, we've done the virtual, we're back. We're hybrid. So we have folks joining us. Everyone wave to those cameras back there. We have about 150 to 200 folks joining us virtually today. Shout out to them. Woo! From all across the country. What are you trying to tell me? Oh, it's our 5th year. Thank you, Mia. Woo! Shout out to our 5th year Evolución. See, there's team all over the room right now. So Blue Fox Production, thank you to Blue Fox Production who's making that virtual experience possible, the music, all of that. Of course, the Kauffman Foundation, where we are today. I venture to say that they haven't had any matachinas in their spot, ever. So, I'm a little proud about that. And then, of course, you're going to hear from a lot of amazing presenters today. You're going to see some more performers. So shout out to all of them as well. Just a quick look at our sponsors as well. Can you raise your hand if you represent, if we can go to the next slide, if you represent our sponsors today? Do we have, look at our hands, shout out, yes, yes, yes. Let's give them a round of applause. Yes, ma'am. We have our maestros, we have compadres, we have some patrons in the room, and of course we have amigos in the room from all around the country really sponsoring this event. You know why? Because representation matters, right? Less than 1% of educators in Kansas City identify as Latinx. About 8% of educators in the country identify as Latinx. Raise your hand, anybody know the number of Latinx students nationwide? The percentage? Or shout it out? A lot. Growing. The fastest growing. About 30% of students in the nation, almost 30%, and like I said, the fastest growing group, and yet only 8% of Latinx educators. So shout out to our sponsors who know that that's important work. Let's give them another round of applause. I'm so excited. Because thanks to our sponsors, thanks to WGU in particular for this, we have surprises for y'all today. Yes, we have surprises. You know what? How about this? Stand up if you're a teacher. If you are a classroom teacher, stand up. Can we please give a round of applause to our teachers? Yes, thank you so much, teachers. I'm sorry I got you up out of your seat unexpectedly. Guess what, y'all? If you just stood up, you have a chance to win tickets for you and your class today to go to the Kansas City Mavericks game on November 15th. Shout out to our teachers. Shout out to WGU. Did I say WGU? That's what I meant, WGU. Look, let me not mess up their name because of them, the Kids' Day game for the Mavericks, the team had to tell me that that's hockey, right? Hockey, my team, yes. It's hockey. But what better way, right? Because like me, I am almost 30 years old. I have not gone to a hockey game. So a lot of our kiddos probably haven't either, right? So a teacher today is going to walk out with 50 tickets to the Mavericks game on November 15th. Thanks to WGU. Shout out to WGU. Shout out again to our teachers. All right, let's go on to the next slide. And I got ahead of myself because I get so excited about our mission. You know what it is. On our next slide, you'll see that this year, my team and we got together on the next slide to really get down to the nitty-gritty. We hear a lot of corporate, I don't know any other word, fancy words for this work, for teacher diversity. We hear recruitment. We hear retention. We hear percentage. We hear ratio. We hear graduation rate, right? When do we hear home? When do we hear heart? When do we hear humanity? Edgar and I, and my team and I, really, as we've pushed for this language, we run into folks who are like, I don't know that we want to fund like humanity. Oh, really? Because we're working with schools to build communities of belonging where humanity and the expertise of Latinx educators is appreciated and affirmed. Who can get behind that? AKA retention, right? I don't know if we fund heart. But recruitment, AKA inspiring the hearts of Latinx students and inviting them to become educators, AKA recruitment. Where's the investment in our 10-year-olds to become educators, right? I don't know if we fund home. These are fake conversations, by the way, and no one told me that to my face. But these are corporate folks who want to hear the fancy words. Oh yeah, building a home for Latinx educators where they feel less isolated and more supported and loved. Who feels loved right now? Who feels loved right now? I mean, maybe not loved yet. If you haven't got a hug from me, let me know. Maybe not loved yet. AKA retention, right? Latinx educators are the fastest educators to leave the classroom on average after just an average of 3 years nationwide versus the teacher average of 5. I don't know about you, but what that means for me is that educators, regardless of their race and ethnicity, aren't feeling very supported and loved and are feeling very isolated. Look, the neck twirl start coming out. You see that? That's it. We do this work on the next slide, through our 5 values. Again, Edgar and I sat and re-looked at our values and said, no, for real. If you know Edgar, he comes with these every single time. With authenticity, with integrity, with impact, community, and personal growth at the forefront. And because he's our leader, inherently, it's if you're a part of this team, you come with this. So guess what that means? That means that we get uncomfortable. That means that we sometimes feel inconvenience. That's what it's going to take. If I get a call right now and a teacher says, hey, I can't finish this project tomorrow because we don't have enough colored pencils, do I respond with, well, that's not my job, I'm a deputy director, and that's not what I do? No. Building a home, being authentic. My experience as a teacher lends to, there are times when I push on what the norms are of the way people do this work. Because if I need to go buy some colored pencils at CVS right now real quick, I'm about to go do that. Right? Of course, there's a lot prettier way to say that. But if you know me, the authenticity, the integrity, the impact, when you are at an LEC event, put these at your forefront of your minds. Those of you who are in here that are recruiters, higher ed recruiters who are here maybe looking to hire some wonderful teachers in the room. I ventured, oh look, we got some hands going up. George said, come on over here. Look, we got some hands. I encourage you who are hiring to put these at your forefront. Because this is what makes people feel less isolated, more supported, and more loved. I have an amazing privilege right now to bring up to the stage the person who walked so that all of us could run. Let me say that again. I'm going to bring up the person who walked. Actually, I'm going to bring up the person who crawled, who like crawled and dug and climbed so that we could run, so that we could fly. And bring up our founder, Edgar Palacios. Come on up, Edgar.
Let's go, let's go. Mr. CEO, it's what my title say.
Turn it on. Come on in, have a seat.
Wow. Buenos dias! How's everyone doing? I like that song, by the way.
No, did you hear what it said?
No, I didn't.
Can you play it one more time?
We got a playback on this?
Wait.
Mr. CEO, it's what my title say.
It's the part where it says, Mr. CEO is what my title say.
Thank you for the recognition.
Did you like that?
Yeah, I did. Appreciate
Good.
that.
Because we did that on purpose. Good job, team. We surprised them. All right. So, Edgar, I know you have a lot to say, but we're going to do all of that through a look back.
Okay.
We're going to go through the last few years, really, and have a conversation about what the LEC has done in the last 5 years. So if we can go to the next slide and kind of start our one more. Who's in this picture? Thank you. Who's in this picture? Raise your hand. Stand up, stand up. Ivan, I know Marta's in the room. Eva's in the room. Mia's in the room. Stand up. Shout out to them. Can we give them a hands up? Those folks around the room have made Evolución possible for 5 years. This is what year? 2019?
That is 2019 before the global pandemic.
Yes. What are your thoughts, Edgar?
Eva's tired for sure.
Eva was tired.
So I was terrified. So the year before, our first Evolución conference happened in 2018, and it happened at El Centro's Academy, right? And so me and myself, we were just talking about this. We were out there rolling tables, putting it in the gym, and we didn't know if anybody would show up. And I think we filled out our tables at that time. We had about 40 people. And so it was wild to walk into that space at UMKC. And I think that year we had roughly 200 plus people in the space. And the energy there was fantastic. I saw a lot of people hugging each other. I saw a lot of people just being in space and community with each other. And then we had a phenomenal keynote by Dr. Francisco Guajardo, who said one of the most powerful things that I still take with me, which is the invitation is so important, right? In our community, it is important to invite others into space with you, right, into community. And so that's something that I really try to work with our team to think about. How are we inviting people into this work? How are we inviting people into this mission? And so Dr. Guajardo did a phenomenal job of articulating that and sharing some really powerful stories, which I think left some of us crying for the part of that. And then we had a good DJ, I think, at some point. So
I forgot to tell you, we have lots of memories to go through. So
oh, okay, I'll be quiet.
Keep it short. This next picture was here. You remember that?
Yeah, that was Amplify, right?
That was Amplify X. Who remembers this? Does anyone remember Amplify X? Also, early. I actually have the date. This was on March 1st, 2020.
Yeah.
About 16 days before the lockdown, or the shutdown here in Kansas City.
We were so excited. We had like 7 people like decked out here, had a good time. We didn't know that we would not be seeing each other for roughly 2 years in person. Mm-hmm. That was the last moment. We were so thrilled. We were like, oh, wow, people really care or invested in this work. And like, we're going to do it. We're going to go big. And then COVID-19 happened. So.
Yeah. Can you just look at our faces then and now? Like, we've been through some or actually, I'll speak for myself. I've been through some stuff in the last couple of years. So I look a little, more doe-eyed there. What do we do, though? I mean, can you talk about Tico, being in the Tico? Shout out Tico Productions, by the way. They helped us a lot in our early work. Thank you so much. What was that like?
So I think the week after Amplify X, a couple of weeks, we had a conversation to have, right? We didn't know what it was going to look like for the future. We didn't know what the LEC was going to do. Everything shut down, and we didn't know what the future held. And so Susana and I had a really long conversation about what we would do in that moment. And we decided that while we didn't know what the future was, that we would double down and recommit to our mission, and that we would use whatever resources we had at that moment to make sure that our teachers were doing well, and were feeling supported by this work and by ourselves. And so that's what we did. We leaned in heavily into the virtual space, and we also hosted a couple of career fairs virtually.
Mm-hmm. We got real creative with how to maintain that home for Latinx educators. We had happy hours virtually. We had, what even is a virtual career fair? I have no idea. I don't know.
But people got hired, so worked.
We started presenting. These are just some, of that time together.
I will say the coolest thing about being in the virtual space, and shout out to the people who are with us virtually today, is that there are a lot of Latinos out there in the Midwest and in other communities, right, that do not have a community like this for them, right? And that feeling of isolation is deep. And so it was incredible to see at least the ability to connect with folks. We have some folks in this space who flew out from Chicago today.
Shout out to people who traveled.
Which is wild. So, Sophia, thank you for being here. And so that's the power of the virtual space, right?
Yeah, we got Sophia, we got Sasha, we got several people from out of town. Who participates in PLCs at school? Okay, well, I changed it to professional learning and chisme because you had to keep it fun. You had to keep it light. When I first joined LEC, I was still teaching. And this is a screenshot from one of my kiddos on our virtual learning. I want to go back to school. And then I taught 6th grade, and they didn't get their graduation that year. So we got real creative and had them all. We delivered materials, and we did a neighborhood graduation. We drove around. I honked a little bit too much, I'm sure. But that's what was happening. And then, his feet are a little bigger than that now. I will give you a gift if you can tell me what Halloween costume that is. I don't know what the gift is, but Anastasia. He's the baby from Hangover, because what's my son's name? His first name? Carlos. So who's seen The Hangover? Well, he's baby Carlos from The Hangover. I won't even say her profession, but her profession. She's in Vegas. And so I threw that in there.
She's a teacher.
She's a teacher. She was teacher taught. So I just wanted to throw that in there because, I mean, like I said, look at my face. The last few years have been a crazy couple of years. I may get emotional here because when my son was born, he unexpectedly was born with some difficulties, and he was in the NICU for 3 months. And you created space for me to prioritize what I needed to. And like, remember that? Like you did Latinx Educator Awards by yourself. And the fact, like Edgar models for us belonging, and he models for us home, and he models for us community, because I know that if I were a teacher, how many PTO days I have 15 PTO days, and then not get paid for the other 3 months that I was in the NICU with him. And so the universe, something told me that, it was my time to transition to the LEC because you gave me that space. And then I came back, and it was like no forgiveness from there. So we've been rolling ever since. And then we came back. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts about, look, masked up, what are your thoughts about that transition we had to then pivot and make again?
I think it's what we do. I think it's what we do as people, right? Challenges are part of the learning experience and about growth, and so we continue to grow. And what I'm really proud of our team and about our community is that we are committed to Latino educators. We're committed to our Latino students, and we're making sure that they have the resources, the advocacy, what they need in order to be successful and thrive. And so, like, we show up, and we show up at whatever the cost, Mm-hmm. The judgmental owl is one of my favorite things.
Of course.
If you haven't been to our space at 2203 Lexington here in the northeast neighborhood of our community, that's a phenomenal mural that Socorro Reyes Ramirez, who was introduced to us by Christy Moreno with REVED, Revolución Educativa. That's our community space. And yesterday I heard a comment that was like, this feels, again, like home. It's a space that is designed for the community. In fact, it's being used right now by some of our teacher org partners. And so we believe in community. We believe in sharing our resources. We believe in creating space and holding space for each other. And so I'm really proud of that. But look at this team. You know Woo! What I'm saying? We got some rock stars on the team. And so all of this is not possible without them. And if you haven't engaged with anybody on our team yet, I sincerely hope you get the opportunity to do so, because we have incredible people who are super committed to ensuring that our educators are loved.
I want to elevate one more thing. Not only do we have our space, right, but we pivoted again to hybrid. Shout out to our virtual folks. Everybody give them a round of applause. We want to continue to elevate them. We pivoted to hybrid because our schools opened back up, and we were like, yes, the virtual is fun, and yes, we found that space, and actually it gave us the opportunity to expand our reach, which was a huge pro. But we're back in, like, kids are back in school, teachers are back in school, teachers in the room, educators, actually everyone in the room, please use our space. We are there for you. And then I have one last surprise for you before you go.
Oh, no.
I think we have a video coming, right? Maybe.
I don't think we do.
No! It's for my documentary.
Yeah. No. This is how it ends.
So I'm pushing the team to go on TikTok.
You see, Ivan was like behind the water bottle. Did you see him? Because that's what our space, that's the energy. Who's been in our space? You know that we kick it, okay? We kick it. And so I wanted to show that video because, first of all, it's very, you're dancing, you caught Ivan recording you, but we're making a documentary. So thank you, Edgar, so much. Any final thoughts or?
Yeah, no. One, I really appreciate you all being here today. I appreciate you for your leadership and what you've been able to contribute and what you give to people every day. I'm so proud of our team, but this is for you all. And so I hope today you find friends, you find home, enjoy yourselves. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Edgar, so much. Everyone give Edgar a round of applause. The genius behind all of this work, I'm sure you've heard his story, but if you haven't yet, make sure you find him at some point today because you need to hear it. I now have the other very utmost privilege of introducing our keynote today, all the way from Chicago. We thought it'd be important. You know what? Let's get back to what we're about. And we have a teacher as a keynote today. So shout out. We said, you know what? We're here for teachers. I want to welcome to the stage the wonderful Sofia Gonzalez. She is an educator and activist, like I said, out of Chicago, and she is a teacher at Morton East High School. Everybody give Sofia a round of applause.
All right, good morning, everyone. Buenos dias. It is my esteemed honor to be with all of you this morning. But before I open up with our collective conversation, some housekeeping. First and foremost, I would like to engage in some land acknowledgements. The territory that we are sitting on belong to the Kickapoo tribe, among many other tribes of the indigenous treaties. It is noble to acknowledge that. In addition, I am a classroom teacher, so I'm gonna need a little bit of participation. Y'all can call me Mrs. G. I earned that gangster status. We have a very long day in front of us, don't we? In this space is such collective power. So I would like to quickly walk you through what I walk my students through every Friday on our Feel Good Friday meditations. And if I could just engage you in but a moment of some mindfulness, is that okay? Because I really just want you to breathe. At your earliest convenience, go ahead and close your eyes for me. Acknowledge your body, how it's sinking into that chair. If you're standing, acknowledge the soles of your feet that are holding up your entire body. Relax your shoulders. Many of you probably had them hiked up close to your ears. Our body houses a lot of tension. Put your hand to your heart. And let's just take a second and acknowledge that very important organ that is beating life into our bodies. And with me, take a deep breath in. Exhale at the top. Our next breath, we are going to breathe in focus, and we are going to breathe out distraction. Are you with me? Take a deep breath in. We're breathing in focus. Take a deep breath out. Exhale, exhale, exhale that distraction. Eyes closed. Let's just acknowledge the sanctity of this moment and feel the collective power in this space. You may open your eyes for me. The title of my conversation is, It's Time to Pivot. You see, we all have a story, and this is mine. I remember when I was once asked this question. The year was 2009, and I was nestled within the heart of Chicago's most gang-infested neighborhood, sandwiched between the Latin Kings and the maniac Latin disciples in a little area called Little Village. And there I was, a rookie teacher at the time. And I was asked a very critical question that, if I'm being very honest with you, I'm still answering to this day. And it went a little something like this. Wow, Mrs. G, you just got into the classroom. Like, wherever do you teach? This is so exciting. Well, I responded, I teach in a second chance charter for kids who have been kicked out or dropped out of the Chicago public school system, and well, their last chance is with me, Mrs. G. What? Gasp filled the air like thick clouds of smoke. You teach them? I mean, honestly, why would you teach them? I mean, do they throw stuff at you? Do they yell at you? Do they swear? Do they even care to learn? Like, why would you take it? And how are you going to do it? And my response resembled a bit of some poetry. Why would I take it? I answered back. Though I understood the concern and the deep stigma burned with working with a bunch of unlovables, I felt a pounding need for justice to defend them. I took it because I've never met a group of them who survived what they've survived. I took it because I've never met a group of them who have fought back things like a heart attack. You'll never amount to nothing. You'll be dead in no time. You're just gonna be like your daddy, locked up in prison kind of stuff, and still come out with their head slightly up. I never met a group of them where between the FUs and I have no clues how they pick up the pen and try again, and this time music comes from their paper that sings good effort, outstanding, and much better. Though my days are long, and my battles against years of neglection and rejection were so deep, they were my heroes. Little did I know that as wicked teacher and preacher that I'd be the one to learn from them. Though I didn't reach them all, and some did fall, but some got up and pressed the button reset and changed their mindset. That's why I take it, and I took it. Does that answer your question now? And so you see, we all have a story. Consider that scene. This was my scene. This is the context by which I come to you this morning. You see, urban education for the last 14 years is all that I know. In this context, losing my students to gang and to gun violence, that young man in that top left-hand corner, that would be the first student that I would lose to gang violence. His name was Adolfo. He was at the wrong place at the wrong time. He was at a block party and they shot him in the head. He was dead on arrival. Please excuse the graphic nature of my descriptions, but these are our current realities and still is my current truth. We all have a story, so what is yours this morning? What is the causation that has catapulted you into this life of advocacy work? Whether you're an activist, a nonprofit leader, a classroom teacher, an influencer, someone who cares about the social issues that are infringing upon historically minoritized communities like our Black and brown brothers and sisters. This is my story, and I really want you to think about yours moving forward. I would like to take you on a bit of a journey with me because you see, I have been confronted with some of the most catastrophic disparities that our nation's youth have faced and will ever face. From the school to prison pipeline, from no registered address, to gang and to gun violence, from visiting them in the ICUs with bullet holes in their skin, from holding grieving mothers in funeral after funeral. That is the context by which I come to you this morning. My first classroom number was room 214, and that room number would metamorph into a nonprofit by which I am the lead visionary, Project 214, because out of the disparities, see, out of pain can come promise. Who's with me this morning? Out of disappointment can come destiny. And I could have either folded or I could have pivoted. And that's what I want to share with you this morning. You see, it's time to pivot. Say that with me. It's time? It's time to pivot. Here's a thought that I want you to hang on to and put a pin in for the next couple of minutes. Full knowledge of self is a tense collection of healing, transforming, and liberating. I need participation. Say this with me. Don't go in front and don't stay behind. Full knowledge of self is a tense collection of healing, transforming, and liberating. Those are the three what I will be calling rhythms These rhythms have helped me to sustain the work. These 3 rhythms by which I am going to expound upon have helped me not only to survive, but to thrive in this line of work of advocacy, activism, reform, and justice. First rhythm is that rhythm of healing. Somebody say healing. See, I told you Miss G needs a lot of participation. Y'all ain't just gonna sit there and look at me, and I would expect some notes here today, this morning. Thank you. Healing. Wouldn't you love to be in my class to be like, Miss G, you extra. I'm like, I wake up like this. Let's go. Rhythm of healing. Listen, my fellow justice warriors in the fight, in this collective struggle, we have got to pause and heal. We have got to fall into the rhythm of what I will be calling mirror work, where we come in front of a mirror, right? We can't see this, but I'm gonna pull this up. Mirror work is so important. It is like us coming in front of a mirror. Ooh, look at how beautiful everybody looks this morning, including myself. We need to do the mirror work, coming in front of the mirror and really looking at our vulnerabilities in all living color. And we need to be able to say and identify, I am injured in this area. Why don't we admit when we are injured? Why do we not identify in times that it is necessary that we need drink? Why is it that we're constantly giving living waters to those who we serve, but yet we often go without and we are exhausted and dehydrated? I'm admonishing you this morning, in order to sustain this work, first and foremost, our first stop is healing. You deserve to be healed. You deserve to stop and to rest. That is a form and a version of justice. Dr. Bettina Love, if you've never read any of her books, you need to pick it up. She wrote a book called Doing More Than Just Wanting to Survive, Being an Abolitionist Teacher. She said the following: the scars of systemic oppression are so real and traumatic. Sadly, in a way, school is a battlefield. Listen, we cannot normalize teacher trauma. We cannot normalize exhaustion and burnout. We cannot normalize going so far deep into the fight that we're crawling to the next side. We cannot normalize that. What we do need to normalize is rest, revitalization, and healing. Because if you're injured, I'm injured. And in order for us to be a collective, you have to do the individual work. Who's with me? Who am I here for this morning? I feel like I'm here for somebody. And I say this to you in all of my vulnerability as a recipient of vicarious trauma, of secondary trauma, of compassion fatigue, and post-traumatic stress disorder. If I did not take the time to heal and access the necessary resources, I would have aborted my destiny. I would have diminished my impact. And I wouldn't be standing in front of you this morning, I'll tell you that much. You have got to heal. You have got to pause. This work is arduous. This work is heavy. This work is overwhelming. You and I are in the trenches. We're like frontline workers. We are face to face with these issues. And so therefore, my first rhythm that I want to admonish you to consider is that of healing. Heal and heal often. What are your best practices? Every morning for the past 16 years, I get up and I meditate and I read a book that feeds me, and then I journal, and then I pause and I do what is called the first 5 breaths before I transition from what I'm reading to what I want to write, and I just breathe. Whew, I just breathe, because the triggers are still there. I don't really like sirens anymore. I react strangely to loud sounds. Don't let my students congregate by the door. That just brings up way too many. Do you understand what I'm saying here this morning? And in order for you to continue the work with your families, with your stakeholders, with your students, with who you want to influence, you have got to heal, because our work indeed is a battlefield. Dr. Sean Jin Wright from the 4 Pivots says the following: when we practice mirror work, an ongoing commitment of self-reflection and truth-telling, we arrive at what? We arrive at what? Activists are also visionaries. and visionaries need a vision. You cannot have a vision if you're just overwhelmed with anxiety. You will lack clarity if your body is wrenched and wreathing in pain. So not only does healing allow us to continue the work, but it breeds clarity. It gives us new vision for solutions, for outcomes, and for movement and traction in the work. And in order for us to advance, we have got to stop and heal. Because if we're going to continue to disrupt the system, come on somebody, I feel like I'm having church up in here. If we're going to continue to address these systemic barriers that would still oppress our people, if we are going to diversify the hell out of the teacher workforce, then you and I need to get it together. Together. Dr. Bettina Love also says the following: the interior journey into silence, meditation, inner wisdom, and deep joy is inextricably linked to the outer work of social change. We have got to do the work. Don't overlook yourself. You're the most important piece in this equation. We need you alive. We need you breathing. We need you excited and vivacious about the work, but not when you're broken, not when you're exhausted, not when you're injured, and not when you need healing. Rhythm number 1. Healing, sanidad. Rhythm number 2, I've got to go, I'm on a time constraint. And Ms., you don't really like time constraints, but you're just going to go with it. Transformation. Somebody say transformation. Once we get into these healing properties and best practices, then there's this transformation that takes place. Listen, I am telling you my journey, and it has reaped so many blessings and benefits that I want this for you. This transformation, then it's like this new version of self. It's like you become this different person, and you like vibrate at a different frequency. People like to say, get on my level. I like to say, get on my frequency. Get on my frequency, baby, because I'm vibrating higher. Get on my frequency. And with that, there's this transformation. And guess where the transformation starts? My family. It starts in the mind. Do you realize that your thoughts become things? Do you realize that whatever you throw out into the universe, it shall come back to you? So watch your thoughts. Don't you dare speak down on yourself. Don't you dare cast doubt on yourself. Don't you dare make yourself feel inferior. We have enough outside barriers and social constructs to do that. It starts in your mind. Your pensamientos become positions. Your thoughts become things. Case in point. At a particular part in my journey, once that healing was underway, I felt like I needed community. I felt like I needed a network of like-mindeds to join, because as you can see, my version of crazy is like on another capacity. And I just needed somebody to get with me, to come around me. And guess what? LEC found me. Let me just tell you that Latinx Education Collaborative found me all the way. That's at Chicago. So when they're talking about community, they are for real. They brought Ms. G all the way from the neighborhood into your presence. That's community. Okay? That is community, and I'm so grateful for LEC that saw me, that valued me, that took me in. And I ain't even from KC, KS. It's like this whole thing, right? I'm like, man, y'all got territories here too? Okay. This new version of self. And I said to myself, I started gaining entrance into these national fellowships like Storytellers for Change with LEC and Latinos for Educación, and all of these different fellowships started to take me in, and I was just so overwhelmed by the community and the transformation they were identifying and they were nurturing. And I finally got to a point where I'm like, man, one day I'm going to say this out loud. And I tweeted it, and I should have put this in my slide presentation, but I know y'all believe me, I'm good for it. I said, one day I'm going to Washington, D.C. One day, I'm taking this message to the Capitol, because guess what? I'm tired of people making decisions and informing policy that do not look like me, that do not represent the stakeholders that I serve, and they need to hear the lived experiences of me and my inner city Chicago. They don't call it Chirac for nothing. I am going to inform policy, and I will make my seat at the table. I threw it out. I threw it out into the universe. You just got to go crazy, go crazy, go crazy. I said, I'm going to D.C. I don't know who, I don't know where or when, but somebody's going to ride with me. Somebody's going to pick up the tab and take me there too. And would you believe that I just spent a summer in Washington, D.C. this past summer with Urban Leaders Fellowship, examining policy and practice, going to downtown D.C. and working with Councilmember Pito from Ward 4, talking about we need to diversify the teacher workforce, we need more representation, we need to dismantle these systemic barriers that would cause our communities a lack of upward mobility. Ms. G gave them the business. And they were like, whoa, you are a vibe. And I'm like, I'm just getting started. It starts in your mind. It starts in your mind, and that I was busted and disgusted and couldn't be trusted from the neighborhood. And so how did I end up in DC? Because when you heal, you transform. And when you transform, you ascend into this next dimension of yourself. Who am I here for? Who am I talking to? Do you want this tonight, this morning? Do you want this? You've got to want it, and you've got to want it bad. Another thing that really catapulted me, and with this I have to pivot, is this idea of coming in contact with my cultural landscape. Man, when I ascended into this new dimension and version of myself, I came in contact with my Latinidad. LEC came to fan the flames. Latinos for Education came to fan the flames, and all these other networks that were really amplifying the voices of the Latino community and pushing them in seats and positions of power and diversifying the classroom. Like, they were telling me stuff like, lead from your identity. They were telling me stuff like, you are your ancestors' wildest dreams. I was like, what the world? What? It's on now. And I began to experience this new version of myself. And people would always ask me, man, where you from? Like for real, like, where you from, Sophia? Like, where you from, Ms. G? And I swear, at that particular point, it was like, music started to play in my head, and I know you believe me because I'm only going to get crazier in the next 7 minutes. Music started playing in my head. You know what song would come up when they would ask me where I'm from? Man, I just felt like In the Heights and Lin-Manuel Miranda. I would like channel him. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, they would ask me where I'm from. I'd be like, where am I from? Cue the music.
Esa bonita bandera contiene mi alma entera y cuando yo me muera, enterrame en mi tierra.
Yes! Where am I from? Bueno, mi mamá es de San Sebastián, Puerto Rico. Mi papá es de Monterrey, México. Half tostones, half tortilla, half boricua, half chicana. You're welcome. I would not have been able to accomplish that, right? Accessing my power. Listen. The way your mouths are still open, we were not meant to acquiesce in any space. We were not meant to shrink in any space. You and I need to enter a space and leave their jaws dropped on the floor with our Latinidad, with our collective power, with our agency, and with the unction of our ancestors. Who's with me here this morning? Who is with me here this morning? Tenemos que seguir adelante. Es nuestro tiempo. Touch somebody and say, it's our time. It's our time. It's our time. Do we not know that the Latino population is the fastest growing population in the United States? So if you invest in us, you are investing in the prosperity of our democracy. We are worth the investment. Woo. I gotta go. This ascension. I gotta go. Earned entitlement means what? It means gaining a sense of confidence and clarity from a deep understanding of what it cost your ancestors to bring you to this point. It has costed our ancestors way too much. It has costed former generations of their struggle, of their fight for resilience, justice, and equity for us to stop now. But I'm telling you, you gotta fall into syncopation. You gotta fall into rhythm with healing and with transformation. Last pillar, last rhythm that I want to share. See, we went from mirror work, right? That's the healing. Then we went to cloud work. That's the ascension. That's the liberation. Now, baby, I'm taking you to the ground. Somebody say, I'm on the ground. I'm on the ground. This is where the groundwork is, and this is where I feel and argue that this is where we provoke and ignite collective action. See, there is something powerful about being liberated. There is something powerful about engaging in these best practices, so much so that you are free to ebb and flow in your purpose and in your destiny, not individually, but collectively. And I kind of feel like liberation draws attraction. Liberation draws attraction. I want to demonstrate this, and then I gotta go. I need one volunteer. I need one volunteer. Come on up, I don't bite. Unless you're racist, then I'm gonna bite you, okay? Unless you're racist. Come on up, beautiful. I appreciate you. Tell me your name. Wendy? Yes. Wendy with her beautiful dress. Look at her, ain't she cute? So I like to think of once we're at this level of liberation, liberation of thought, liberation in our healing, this transformative power, accessing our ancestors and really going to a new frequency, it's like we begin to draw one another. It's almost like a magnet. So we've got these two wands here. Go ahead and touch the end of mine. And then we pull apart. And guess what happens? Wendy, turn around and reach out. It expands our reach. It expands our reach. And so now Wendy's able to reach that particular group of people. I'm able to reach this particular group of people. So this liberation, it draws attraction. And guess what it does? It extends our reach for collective agency, collective action. Teamwork makes the dream work. Do you know what I'm saying? Thank you, Wendy. You can put that down. Thank you so much. Let's give my volunteer a hand. Kind of functions as a sword to knock some stuff out. I end with this. We need to go from hell to healing. We need to go from trauma to transformation. We need to pivot from loss to liberation. Say to yourself, it's time to pivot. It's time to pivot. Come on, I'm not playing with you. It's time to pivot. Come on, it's time to pivot. It's time to pivot. It's time to pivot. These breakout sessions are going to allow you that opportunity to pivot, and I'm so excited for you. I'm so moved by the great Dolores Huerta, who was my recent speaker in the spotlight with my students. My students didn't even know that she was Cesar Chavez's Ride to Die and counterpart. I'm like, we need to elevate our girl Dolores. She was part, si se puede. That's her line. At any rate, the great social justice change in our country have happened when people what? Came together, organized, and took direct action. There's power in our collective genius. There's power in our collective agency, but you can't be injured on me, and you can't be operating in a frequency that's below your dimension. I end with this. I wrote a poem recently for the State of Education Summit where the U.S. Secretary of Education, Miguel Cardonas, opened up with his opening remarks, and I wrote this out of a fellowship experience that I had with Latinos for Education, and it's called A Letter to Us. Carta para nosotros, from my heart to yours. Take a listen.
Once a single voice, now a chorus of brilliant estrellas shining in the universe, brimful constellations of amor, sabiduría, esperanza y verdad. I have learned not to apologize for my passion stemmed from my lived experiences of trauma and long suffering. There is poder increíble in our Latinx identity, hues of colors designed with complexities that will service the brown faces and spaces that embody nuestra comunidad. The intersection of contemplative mindfulness, the vitality of linguistic literacy that traces back our history shall hold us, elevate us to dimensions of advocacy yet unseen. To feel the warmth of our Latinidad cascade from the backdrop of our stories, from the works of our hands to the rooms of our hearts. Nunca en mi vida have I felt such a collective belonging of like-minded that see the potential and the promise of our kids that have often been left on society's margins, but we see them, we hear them, and we will amplify the voices that they already have. Empowerment, grace, beauty, promise, declarations, proclamations, reverberations. Every revolution begins on the heels of resistance, answering to the sounds of angustia, reclaiming with fists de justicia. We are the ones we are waiting for. We are our ancestors' wildest dreams. Adelante con la lucha, juntos podemos.
In closing, full knowledge of self is a tense collection of healing, transforming, and liberating. And I welcome you all into your own journey. In solidarity, adelante. Thank you so much.
Lanzada donde quiera, recuerdo de mi tierra, me acuerdo de mi tierra, esa bonita bandera contiene mi alma entera, y cuando yo me muera, enterrame en mi tierra.
My former students will tell you, I think I know how to dance, but I don't really know. Hey, one more round of applause for our amazing Sofia Gonzalez. Oh, sorry, I forget about this. You have her socials here. Take a quick screenshot. I know you want to follow her. You see why we brought her up? All the way from Chicago, I don't care where she was from. When I met her, I said, we gotta get her at the LEC, of course. And like I said, look, I'm out of breath. What was that, 10 seconds? That's not okay. We have to get a teacher up here. She's in the classroom, Project 214. She started a nonprofit with a group. If you're not inspired by that, I don't know what'll get you inspired today, but we do have a lot more to come. I do want to give a shout out to some unsung heroes that often go unnoticed. Our board, shout out to our board if you're here with us virtually. Shout out to our board. A lot of our board is outside of Kansas City. We want to be informed from nationwide perspectives. And then, of course, our funders. Shout out to our funders. Everyone give them a round of applause. Some of our funders dedicated even more sponsorship to this event itself, but shout out to them. In my heart, I also want to shout out our unsung heroes, our Spanish interpreter, Christy Moreno, back here in the back, is doing amazing work with our sister organization, Revolución Educativa. If you don't know Christy, do today, get to know her. And then, of course, our ASL interpreters for today. Shout out to our ASL interpreters. So, ASL interpretation is not something that's very commonly provided. Did I flip the, I'm sorry, my bad. Not commonly provided. And so our deaf, hard of hearing community and our community who uses ASL as their mode of communication often don't feel like they can participate in our events. And so, of course, as a community of belonging, as a community who, we talk about coming together and home and all of that, we want everyone to feel welcome into our space. I have a personal connection, right? Of course, my mom, I told you about earlier, is deaf. And when she was growing up in Mexico, she weren't taught sign language. She was actually fully deaf for her first 15 years of life because it took her family 15 years to save up for a hearing aid. So luckily now today she has her hearing aid, and we're learning sign language as a family because my son, right here, back in the back, my husband and my son in the hoodies. That is my Carlos Amado. Sorry, Sasha, I'm going off script. My son, I told you earlier, is born with some difficulties. He won't be able to be vocal for now. He can't speak. And so he turns 2 this month, and he knows 52 sign language words. So I guess the universe thought I was dope, and it was like, here you go, you got to learn a new language. So shout out to our ASL interpreters. Of course, my husband and my son who keep me going. My mom's also in the room today. Have I shouted that out? My mom, right here in the red shirt. And that's what I love. Like some of our team members, their kids are here, their wives, their spouses, their husbands are here. It's community, right? It's what we do. All right, I'll stop talking. So, virtual folks, thank you for joining us. I know you're getting ready to pivot into the virtual space and go into your Zoom breakout rooms. For you all, los que están escuchando el contenido hoy en español, we have vamos a tener uno para ustedes, mental health first aid, addressing mental health in our schools. Of course, if you don't need Spanish interpretation, you can still go to that breakout. I know that right? I know that looks a little misleading, like it's all going to be in Spanish. No, it's just that there is going to be Spanish interpretation available. So if you don't speak Spanish, don't hesitate to go to the first one. You can participate in the first one. That's here in Town Square. Building collective empowerment for students. You're going to hear from an amazing panel. We have some teachers on that panel. We have some community activists on that panel. So if you're looking to, learn how to gather resources and, like Sophia said, organize folks, that's going to be for you. Unpacking the Latinx identity in the academic environment. Are we a community under attack? We have an amazing speaker, Daniel Velasquez, who's also an educator in the Paseo room. And then art as reflection. If you need to, Sophia encouraged you all to, her call to action was heal, right? And really, think about those wounds. If you need some of that time, the Truce Room with Laura Flores, who is also a classroom teacher, is with art as reflection. We good? We're good to go? I was gonna say, any questions? Any questions? It's like I'm in a classroom. All right, well, start making some decisions on where you're going, and we'll see you back at 12. Have fun, y'all.